So the first thing I wanted to ask you about is last year Las Vegas had such an electric city because of their first year, and Detroit used to be that team. How do we bring that electricity back to Detroit so we can rally back to the playoffs and hopefully into a Stanley Cup final?
Well, it starts on the ice. We've got to build a team that's exciting, that's fast, that plays passionate, and we obviously had that in Joe Louis Arena for a lot of years, and it's under my responsibility and all the people's responsibility that we build a team that is fast, it's young, it's exciting, it's got skill, plays hard, and we believe we're on the right path. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
A handful of your Red Wings players have won the Lady Byng award for sportsmanship, and hockey is a very brutal sport, but do you believe that when you're choosing players to be on your team, do you believe that mental toughness is more important or physical toughness?
That's a great question. I think you need to be both. The league over time is going to challenge every player mentally and physically. Certainly I think Nick Lidstrom is one of those guys that won the Lady Byng, and he might be one of the 4 or 5 greatest defensemen that ever played the game, but he rarely got beat one-on-one, and he went back first. He got pucks. Pavel Datsyuk's another player that won the Lady Byng. So, the Lady Byng really is it's an award for great skill and playing the game right, not outside the boundaries of the rules. So there's a way to play within the boundaries of the rule and be a great player. And then, Datsyuk, Zetterberg, we've had a lot of players that have had that have played like the game that way. But certainly we've also had players that we all love. I think of Darren McCarty that would get into fisticuffs and bring a passion and energy. And I think it takes a lot of different ingredients when you build a hockey team. So I would say to you, you need both. You need mental toughness and you need physical toughness. And if you're lacking in either area, the NHL will find out that you're lacking in that area.
The next thing I would like to talk about is before the 2016-17 season, the last time you had missed the playoffs was all the way back in 1989-90 season. And right after that, you had a 25-year streak of being in the playoffs. Do you believe that could come back now, or do you just believe that with hard work, that was just a coincidence, and with hard work, that's the only way you're going to make it?
Are you talking about building a team that can make the playoffs 25? I don't believe anybody can. I won't say anybody, but I think the chances of making the playoffs 25 straight years is very, very slim. And it was a different time. In 1989 draft, we took Nick Lidstrom in the 3rd round. We took Sergei Fedorov in the 4th round. Sergei went in the 4th round because he was playing in communist Russia, and you didn't know if you drafted him, if you could get him. Those players now go in the top 5 in the draft. So it was a different time. And then kudos go out big time to Håkan Andersson in late 90s, early 2000s for finding Zetterberg and Datsyuk in the 6th and 7th rounds. And as Fedorov was his time in Detroit was ending, and Yzerman, due to injury, they came in and became 2 stars up front, and you still had Lidstrom, and we signed Rafalski. So, it's hard to find players as good as Zetterberg and Datsyuk in the 6th and 7th rounds. It's not a sustainable model. The model really is, we need to find players, but to find players that great, and 2 of them that are only a year or 2 apart and play their career together, the odds are incredibly long. Now, again, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it can't happen, but the odds of putting together a 25-year playoff streak is very, because it's you get 10 to 15 years with a group of players, and then you almost got to have another group of players. And our scouts did a great job in the late 90s in finding Franson and Hudler and Filppula and Datsyuk and Zetterberg. And so we had one group of players for 10 to 15 years. We had another group of players for 10 years. So I think it's very, very difficult. You never say never, but the odds are very, very long to make the playoffs 25 years in a row.
The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is Seattle is actually about to make a team. And what's your opinion on that, knowing that you're going to lose another draft pick when they come in?
I see that they've announced that they're shooting for 2020, and obviously we're going to the same rules that applied in the Vegas expansion draft are going to apply in the Seattle expansion draft. You're losing a player. So we just got to make sure that there's no way around losing a player. You're either going to lose a player or you have to give them futures. And some teams in the Vegas expansion draft gave away futures, first round picks, and good young players to protect the team that we had. So we'll see what our team looks like in June of 2020. And make the decision at that point in time. But you're going to lose. You're going to lose a player, and I think you just have to go in and just minimize what you lose and try not to lose. Try to lose the least that you can.
What teams do you think will be your greatest competitor this year?
Well, I think we're in one of the, if not the best division in hockey. It's headed that way. When you look at Tampa Bay is certainly one of the elite teams in the league. Toronto now with Tavares. Boston is an elite team. Florida is a team on the come. The number one pick, in the entry draft, Dowling went to Buffalo. We're in with Montreal and Ottawa. So I look at teams in our division, and then teams in the Eastern Conference. You got to be one of the top three teams in your division, or one of the 8 in the conference. So our rivals really are in our own division. Obviously there's been a great rivalry through the years with Toronto, a great rivalry through the years with Montreal. Depending on where your team is at, our goal is to build our team into an elite team so that we can compete with the very best teams in our division and in our conference.